صلى الله على محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم.
Assalamu alaikum everyone and welcome back to the series of the Seerah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wasallam. Subhanallah. So far we have learned all about the life of the Prophet. Today's episode will be about the end of his life when he left this world. Shall we get started? Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Let's begin. After the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wasallam and the Muslims completed their Hajj in Makkah, they returned to Medina. Somehow the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wasallam knew that the time that he would leave this world was near. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had assured him that he had completed his mission, which was to spread the word of Islam to the people, and so the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wasallam time was soon. He suffered from severe headaches and illness, but even when his illness got worse, he still would lead the prayers in the masjid and supported his followers in their struggle for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One day he was too unwell to go to the masjid to lead the prayers. Instead, he sent Hazrat Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu to go in his place. Hazrat Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was the closest companion to the Prophet, and he willingly took this responsibility and led the prayer well. On the 12th day of the month Rabi al-Awwal, in the year 11H, 11 years after the Hijrah, the Prophet returned to the masjid. He was still weak from his illness. The prayer had already begun, but the whole congregation stopped their prayer when they noticed him. The Prophet signaled for them to carry on. Hazrat Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu continued to pray, but he stepped back to make space for the Prophet to lead the prayers and take the place of the Imam. But the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wasallam gently pushed his companion forward, and he sat down to pray, sitting slightly to the right of Hazrat Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. Everyone saw how the Prophet gave his place to Hazrat Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. Some people believed he had recovered from his illness. He had made a huge effort to answer the call to prayer. With all his might, he wanted to give encouragement and motivation to his companions to support them in the coming struggle in Syria, and to show his utmost support and trust in Hazrat Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. Sadly, later that day, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wasallam passed away in his home in the arms of his wife Hazrat Aisha radiallahu anha. His people did not want to believe it. Even Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu refused to believe the news. Their sadness was deep, but Hazrat Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu saw the body of the Prophet and spoke over it his words of sorrow and love, and then came out to the people to speak to them and calm them down. He recited the words of the Quran which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had given to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wasallam after the defeat at the Uhud. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wasallam is but a messenger and messengers have passed away before. If he dies or killed, will you run away from your duty as a Muslim? Whoever does so will not thereby hurt Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward those who give thanks. From the very beginning of the world, prophets had been invited people to the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, their creator. Before the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, there was Hazrat Nuh alayhi salam, Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam, Hazrat Musa alayhi salam, Hazrat Dawood alayhi salam, Hazrat Sulaiman alayhi salam, and Hazrat Isa alayhi salam, and amongst others. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have peace upon them all. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam was buried in the place where he had passed away. Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu, the companions, looked after the funeral arrangements. Hazrat Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was chosen by the companions to be the leader of the Muslims, and he accepted his responsibilities. When he did so, he said, "If I do well, help me, and if I do wrong, set me right." Subhanallah, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam left such a mark on the world and changed it forever. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward and protect him, his companions, and the Muslim Ummah. Ameen.
Sallallahu ala Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.